Garver previously served as Deputy Administrator of NASA, General Manager of the Airline Pilots Association, and Executive Director of the National Space Society. She's the co-founder of the Brooke Owens Fellowship, an educational organization providing internships and mentorships to collegiate women pursuing careers in aerospace. So, Lori, I know a few women on the Expanse that would be very happy to hear that, by the name of Bobby Draper, drummer Naomi, and Ava Sorala. So welcome to the stage, Lori Garver. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is great to be here. Thanks to Peyton and Karina, the organizers. You know I love you. I'm agreeing to be between you and Elon Musk with 4 minutes left in my time slot. So let's just quick get started. I have a very short video to open to tell you my message today. That is not it. Ellen has already left, but I was with her on
This
the
isn't
panel
a
and
news
she had a
story.
video, so I needed a video.
This story is actually 4.5 billion years old. It is the story of planet Earth, our home planet. Recent human activities are changing our home planet, writing new chapters in the story. These changes aren't easy to see from our own backyards, with gravity keeping our feet planted on the ground. To understand what is happening here, we need to see ourselves from a new perspective. A perspective that shows how our environment is connected. We are all connected, 7.7 billion people and 8.7 million species, to our living planet. The only living planet in our own galaxy or in the known universe. It is only from this perspective that we can fully understand how our home is changing and how we can ensure it can remain home to future generations.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Exploration has allowed humanity to not only survive, but thrive. The Industrial Age fueled population expansion across the globe and our first steps beyond. In the Digital Age, our desire to reach for new heights and reveal the unknown has driven us to develop sophisticated, technically advanced capabilities that provide critical information about our home planet from this new perspective. From these new heights, we now gather massive amounts of data, revealing how unprecedented amounts of greenhouse gases being released into our atmosphere are causing a climate crisis that threatens our existence. We are facing the tipping point for human life on our home planet. But we live in a unique time. A moment in history when scientific and technological progress allows us to understand the negative impacts of previous inventions, offering us a rare and fleeting opportunity to recover. The view from our new perspective offers solutions. Satellite data provides critical, timely information that allows us to predict and adapt to the climate crisis and could be used to enforce policies and treaties that reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained.
Once again, human spirit and innovation can come together to solve a global challenge. The stakes have never been higher, and failure is not an option. Humanity's drive to explore is based on our need to survive. This isn't a new story. We just need to see ourselves from a new perspective.
This space conference, I have a 35-year career in space that has culminated just in this last year with this recent project. And Earthrise is a nonprofit that, as in the introduction, utilizes satellite data to help the more than 7 billion of us here on planet Earth. And while I find it incredibly inspiring and have over that career done things like led the National Space Society, whose goals are to establish space settlements, and have served as President Obama's incoming transition team lead, to me, space has always been about the why. Why are we going? And as I tried to depict in the video, we went to space for very big and important reasons. And so much of what we're talking about at this conference talk about those satellites' ability to use information and help us. Obviously, the OneWeb teams are developing things that ultimately have allowed us to be connected across the planet, things that we take for granted. But there is, in my view, a true renaissance in the satellite business these days, and it is in remote sensing. We have now, through greater, more routine access to space, reduced satellite size, increased capacity, the ability to gather massive amounts of data as never before and model that data, computing power, as well as storage and the ability to have anyone access that information. It is truly coming at a point where we must have all of that in order to make a difference for the future of civilization on this planet. I would love for us to have this be the kind of species that can go farther and can have the first person born on another planet. That's going to be a while, and we need to survive here in order to be in a position to keep expanding outwards. I called Earthrise, named the organization after the famous photograph that was taken on Apollo 8, but I also capitalized the RISE for a renaissance in sensing the Earth, because it is truly something that we now have the capability to do. And just in my career span, have learned so much more than we ever knew before. So many in my generation look to Apollo as that thing that we learned to do that helped save us from communism. That was what it was known as in the 60s. And in my view, what we are doing in space now can be that thing that allows us to save civilization once again. So I've been talking about a plan that could fully implement the kinds of things that we are already studying on Earth. As you might imagine, in this administration, some of this is not happening. So the roadmap that we've put forward is to fully implement the decadal surveys that we already have on Earth science, to extend the missions that right now we are shortening just for budget reasons, that we believe we can incentivize the applications of this information we're getting from space. So one of the things we say a lot is, well, NASA just looks at it. We just take measurements. We don't decide what to do about it. And the concern is that no one really is doing that, and it requires someone being allowed to. And if you looked at something like the National Institutes of Health, this would be like having them study cancer but not working towards a cure. Like, who else do we think is going to make those connections? It's the NASA scientists, and they should be allowed to do it. Similarly, there are no standards across just US agencies or even internationally, and there is a coordination role that, in my view, NASA should play a role in. We, as an agency, I've been there twice, once in the 90s. I ran the policy office, and then as deputy in the Obama administration. And we partner with the government agencies like NOAA, Department of Interior, Defense, Intelligence, to help advance things that we believe we are all measuring for different reasons on planet Earth. But the lack of coordination has kept us from really better communicating with each other as well as the private sector. I was on the board of Maxar Technologies. The private sector is really much more advanced these days at these technologies than the government. A lot of this would just be data buys from the private sector. We're not promoting having the government build and operate these things. Through the same kind of partnerships we use to advance lower cost space transportation, we would do those same things. So you could be an anchor tenant and say, we will buy the data if a satellite can measure methane or carbon output to a certain degree so that you could be able to inform a greenhouse gas monetization policy. Finally, my reasons that I think we should do this are because this is what the public who pays for the government's part of the space program think we should be doing. This is from a Pew survey last summer asking the public what do they believe should be NASA's top priority. The number one thing was to monitor key parts of the Earth's climate system. So that is 63%. The lowest was send astronauts to the moon at 13% and sending astronauts to Mars at 18%. So any of you who know anything about NASA's budgets, around $25 billion a year, less than $2 billion of that goes for the top priority, and more than $10 billion go to those bottom couple priorities. I know this is difficult because human spaceflight is this amazing thing, and again, my career has been spent doing it. And so what I'm very excited about is the fact that all the advancements we've made in the space program have allowed us to be to the point where we can again really give back and do something that the whole world can appreciate. I think for so long we have been held back because we're trying to do the same thing over and over. And we forget that the reason we did it was unique. The Cold War drove that investment, and right now the private sector is really driving so much, which is a much better motivation than fighting with someone. So that is the message of Earthrise. We believe that it is a wonderful time, especially for early career people, to get involved. There are so many challenges, I'm sorry, from my generation to yours, that we are leaving you, but you have the tools, and we know that from space we can learn how to make sure our civilization has the opportunity to continue expanding. And so you can go ask Musk how he wants to live on Mars.